You ever stop and think about the stories, like, etched into the very streets around us?
Hmm.
Here in Los Angeles, there are names and reputations that have echoed for generations. And today we're diving deep into one of the most enduring, the 38th Street Gang.
Right. A name many people might know, but maybe not the full story.
Exactly. We've pulled together a really fascinating collection of documents,
Hmm.
historical accounts, law enforcement perspectives, news articles. And our goal today is to unpack the most crucial, the most compelling information about this gang's almost century-long history
Yeah.
and its impact on the city. We're not just doing a quick summary. We're really after the surprising details, the connections that shed some light.
Yeah. And what's immediately striking, just looking through this stuff, is the sheer longevity we're talking about with the 38th Street Gang.
Right. 100 years almost.
To persist for roughly 100 years and to be so deeply woven into Los Angeles history is, well, it's pretty remarkable, frankly.
It really is.
So our aim is to synthesize the key insights from these different sources, give you a clear understanding of where they came from, how they've changed, and, the lasting mark they've made, all while keeping it engaging, focusing on what truly matters.
Okay, so let's go right back to the beginning.
Hmm.
Our sources point to the early 1920s as the time when the 38th Street Gang likely formed.
Hmm.
And it happened right there on the border between South Central and Vernon in greater Los Angeles.
Right on that edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's incredible to consider is that this makes them one of the absolute, foundational street gangs in the city,
One of the oldest, yeah.
maintaining a continuous presence in that territory ever since. That's nearly a century of history right there.
It is. And you got to think about what Los Angeles was like in the early 1920s. It was booming, right?
Yeah.
Growing incredibly fast.
Right.
And as the sources indicate, the gang's early history is sort of tangled up with the Pachucos and Zoot Suits.
Oh, okay.
And this isn't just like a side note, it provides a really vital cultural context.
Yeah.
These young Mexican Americans, they weren't operating in a vacuum. They were part of this vibrant, yeah, often marginalized, but vibrant social and cultural scene. And the gang's emergence, you kind of need to see it within that whole picture.
Right, the whole Pachuco subculture, that unique style, the identity. And this background really sets the stage for, well, a pivotal moment, something that sent shockwaves way beyond the gang itself.
Hmm.
The Sleepy Lagoon murder in 1942.
Hmm.
Can you take us through what happened there?
Yeah, so August 1942, a young man, Jose Diaz, was killed near a place called Sleepy Lagoon, which is now basically East Los Angeles.
Okay.
The police response was, well, it was swift and broad. They rounded up a huge number of Mexican-American youths.
Wow.
And ultimately, several members of the 38th Street Gang were charged with his murder.
And the trial that followed, from what our sources describe, it sounds like it was just heavily influenced by the wartime atmosphere
Right.
and existing prejudices.
Oh, definitely. The media coverage at the time certainly didn't help things. Very biased.
Yeah.
And the result was the conviction and imprisonment of 5 38th Street gang members. But this is where the story takes a really significant turn.
How so?
Because these convictions had some really unexpected, really far-reaching consequences.
Oh.
These convictions, which were, widely seen as unjust, driven by racial bias, they actually acted as this powerful unifying force within the Mexican-American community.
Really?
Yeah, it galvanized people in a way that hadn't really happened before. And furthermore, sources suggest this event led to this greater sense of solidarity among Mexican gangs themselves, a kind of collective response to what they saw as a profound injustice.
Wow. So it brought people together, even rival groups, potentially.
It seems like it fostered that, yeah. And it's also crucial to remember these convictions were later overturned October 4th, 1943.
Right. And the sources even mention when they got out, when they returned to their communities, these guys were apparently greeted almost like heroes.
That's what's reported, yeah.
That really speaks volumes about the deep sense of injustice around the whole Sleepy Lagoon case, doesn't it? And how the community rallied.
It does. And if we connect this to the broader historical context, the Sleepy Lagoon trial really amplified the existing wartime prejudice against Mexican Americans.
Right.
The association of the 38th Street Gang with the Zoot Suit, which, some people considered unpatriotic during wartime, rationing that link was heavily, heavily emphasized by the media, created this climate of fear and hostility.
Which directly leads us then to the Zoot Suit Riots,
Mm.
May and June of 1943.
Exactly.
And for anyone unfamiliar, this wasn't just a few isolated scuffles, right? We're talking about widespread attacks.
Oh, yeah. Mobs, basically.
Young Mexican Americans easily identified by their zoot suits, being attacked by white servicemen, local residents right here in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
And what's particularly disturbing, as the sources highlight, is the role of the LAPD, who
Mm-hmm.
often seem to, well, turn a blind eye to the violence against the zoot suiters.
Or worse, sometimes arresting the victims.
Right, arresting the victims instead of the attackers.
That element of, let's call it official inaction or bias, is critical to understanding the Zoot Suit Riots.
Yeah.
The sources point to the wartime rationing of fabric. That was a factor in the animosity towards zoot suits. They were seen as extravagant, wasteful.
Okay, I see.
The situation got so bad that the U.S. Department of War had to step in. They banned military personnel from going on leave in Los Angeles for a time.
Wow. They had to find them to base.
Basically, yeah. And incredibly, the Los Angeles City Council even passed a resolution trying to ban zoot suits altogether, though it wasn't actually legally enforced.
Still, the symbolism of that. But okay, there's this fascinating, almost ironic detail that links the 38th Street gang directly to fashion, but in a totally unexpected way.
Ah, yeah, this part's interesting.
Apparently, during the Sleepy Lagoon trial, the defendants, the guys in jail, were intentionally given oversized prison clothing.
Right. The idea, presumably, was to shame them, make them look bad, demean them.
Yeah. But what's so interesting here, according to the sources, is how the defendants reacted.
Instead of looking disheveled or, defeated,
They meticulously maintained these oversized clothes. They kept them clean. They pressed them.
it was an act of defiance, right? Preserving their dignity against this attempt to belittle them.
Exactly. And this act inadvertently contributed to the emergence of a new style. The very oversized look that was meant as an insult became like a symbol of their resilience.
Fashion born from defiance in court. Pretty amazing twist.
Talk about an unexpected twist, yeah. It's a seemingly small detail, but it really underscores the cultural impact, even unintentional, that this group had. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's turn to their present-day situation, or more recent history.
Okay.
Our sources indicate that the 38th Street Gang's primary territory is still a significant chunk of the east side of South Los Angeles, with some pockets, maybe, in East LA, too.
Right. And historically, these areas have unfortunately had a reputation for high levels of crime, being dangerous neighborhoods.
Yeah, that rep has stuck around for a long time in some parts.
Sadly, yes. But their reach, it actually extends beyond Los Angeles County now.
Oh, really?
The sources confirm established cliques, like chapters, you could say, in several cities in Utah. Magna, Salt Lake City, West Valley City, Kearns.
Utah? That's unexpected.
Yeah, and also reportedly in Wisconsin and even Chicago.
Wow. Okay, so while their heartland is still LA, their influence is definitely spread.
Geographically, yes.
And when we talk about influence, well, we have to address the long list of criminal activities associated with the 38th Street Gang. It's a really extensive list.
Yeah, it covers a lot of ground.
Drug trafficking, assault, robbery, extortion, arms trafficking, theft, murder, racketeering, illegal immigration, illegal gambling, kidnapping, witness intimidation, fraud. I mean, it seems like they've been involved in nearly every type of criminal enterprise imaginable at some point.
It's a comprehensive list, unfortunately, and the sources indicate that their primary source of income currently is narcotics, sales and distribution.
Right. Drugs are the main business now.
That seems to be the focus. And this has been a persistent issue for decades. Actually, back in the late 80s, early 90s, the drug activity around 38th Street was so intense that the authorities actually put up temporary road closures, blocked off streets to try and stop non-residents from just driving through to buy drugs.
They closed public streets just to stop the drug traffic.
That's what the sources say, yeah. Gives you a sense of the scale of the problem back then.
Wow. That's a pretty dramatic step and highlights just how bad the drug trafficking was in that specific area.
Definitely.
And fast forward a bit, late 1990s, our sources tell us a federal task force was specifically set up to target the gang's drug trade.
Right. That led to numerous arrests, seizures of, substantial amounts of drugs and money. A concerted effort.
And law enforcement kept trying different tactics, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. We see more evidence of this in 2004. A preliminary injunction was issued.
What did that do?
It legally prohibited identified active members from doing a whole range of things in public, like carrying firearms, drinking alcohol, even displaying gang graffiti or wearing gang colors in certain areas.
It was a civil court approach to try and curb their public presence and activities.
Exactly. A tool to disrupt their operations, make it harder for them to function openly.
And then jump forward again to 2011.
Huh.
There's a major federal move, right? A grand jury indictment using the RACO Act.
That's right. The Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. That's a big one, usually used for major organized crime.
And the allegations were incredibly serious. Murders, murder plots, attempted murders, narcotics trafficking, robberies, extortion, witness intimidation.
Yeah, the whole 9 yards. A reported 53 defendants charged in that single indictment.
53. That sounds like a huge operation, a massive sweep.
It was definitely a significant undertaking by federal authorities. Shows how seriously they viewed the 38th Street Gang's activities as an ongoing criminal enterprise.
Right.
However, it's worth noting, as our sources point out, specific details on, like, the final outcomes of all those arrests, conviction rates, sentences. That information isn't available in the materials we have.
Ah, okay. So a big indictment, but the full resolution isn't clear from these docs.
Correct. Which kind of underscores the ongoing challenges, in fully dismantling these really deeply rooted organizations.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, to really understand any gang, you have to look at their relationships, who they work with, who they fight with.
Alliances and rivalries, yeah.
Yeah.
Crucial.
So our sources give us some details here. They have a known alliance with the Mexican Mafia and its Sureño Street Saints 13. And for listeners, Sureños generally means Southern California gangs aligned with the Mexican Mafia, right?
Yeah.
13 often stands for M for Mafia.
That's the common understanding, yes. Allegiance to the Mexican Mafia, often symbolized by the number 13.
And 38th Street also reportedly has a sort of loose alliance with the 18th Street gang.
Seems that way, yeah. Based apparently on having common enemies in South Los Angeles. Sometimes the enemy of my enemy is my temporary friend.
Right. Convenience makes strange bedfellows, even in the gang world.
These alliances and rivalries can be really complex. They shift, they change based on strategy, who controls what territory, competition over drug markets, stuff like that.
Okay, so who are their main rivals then?
According to our sources, primary rivals include the Bloods,
Okay.
Florencia 13, another major Sureño gang, actually.
Oh, interesting. So Sureños fighting Sureños.
It happens. Territory and respect are big drivers, and also the Playboys gang.
Got it. And historically, these conflicts, they haven't been peaceful disagreements.
Oh, no, far from it. Historically characterized by significant violence, drive-by shootings, deaths, intense competition, often deadly.
And this brings us to a really crucial point in understanding 38th Street's power, their endurance. That relationship with the Mexican Mafia you mentioned.
La mem.
Our sources are pretty explicit here. They state that the Mexican Mafia controls and routinely uses 38th Street gang members to carry out their orders.
Yeah, that's a key takeaway. This isn't just a casual association. It suggests a clear hierarchy.
Control. That's a strong word.
It is. The Mexican Mafia, La M, it's an extremely influential prison gang, but its power extends far beyond prison walls. They wield considerable authority over numerous Southern California street gangs, including 38th Street.
So how does that work, practically?
They basically leverage these street gangs, the Sureños, to conduct criminal operations for them, both inside prison and out on the streets, collecting taxes, enforcing rules, carrying out hits, running drugs. So this connection to the Mexican Mafia, it significantly reinforces the 38th Street gang's influence, their power, and likely contributes to their sheer endurance over the decades.
Right. Having that backing, that network, it makes a huge difference.
A massive difference.
So, okay, as we kind of bring this deep dive toward a close, we can really see the 38th Street gang has incredibly deep roots in Los Angeles history, almost a century.
Deep and tangled roots.
Yeah. They were right there, involved in pivotal city-shaping events like the Sleepy Lagoon case, the Zoot Suit Riots, things that profoundly impacted the broader Mexican-American community.
Absolutely. Their story is intertwined with LA's story, especially the Mexican-American experience in the 20th century.
And despite, decades of law enforcement efforts, task forces, injunctions, riot indictments, they maintain a significant presence.
They persist.
Involved in this wide range of criminal activities, primarily drugs now, it seems. And with that clear, powerful connection to the Mexican Mafia underpinning it all.
And I think it's vital to recognize, as we wrap up, that this isn't just a story about crime, isolated from everything else. It's a narrative that's deeply intertwined with issues of social prejudice, cultural identity, poverty, lack of opportunity, and the major historical events that have shaped not only the 38th Street game itself, but the very fabric of Los Angeles.
That's a really important takeaway. It forces you to consider the intricate ways that these large societal forces, prejudice, historical context, economics, can intersect with the development and the persistence of groups like this.
Hmm. It's never just one thing.
No. So as you, the listener, reflect on our deep dive today, maybe think about this. What does the long, often turbulent history of the 38th Street Gang tell us about the enduring challenges faced by communities, by law enforcement, and maybe even more broadly, what societal factors might continue to contribute to the complex issue of gang activity today?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to consider.